Good morning, everybody. Yesterday we transmitted a little late. Ayer transmitimos un poco tarde y hoy un poco temprano. So let's continue.
Ánimo,
Good morning.
que lo mejor es lo peor que se va a poner.
The best thing is that it's going to get worse, he says.
Muy bien. Hoy, como todos
Today,
los miércoles,
as every
vamos a la
Thursday,
sección de quién
Wednesday,
es quién en las
we're going to
mentiras.
go to the section
Y
of who's
luego,
who in the lies.
para información
And then for information,
general,
general information,
porque pues esto
because this, of
no
course,
se
it's not
difunde en
it's
los
not
medios
shown in the
convencionales,
media,
en la información de los periódicos,
in the regular information, in
las
the
estaciones de radio,
newspapers,
en la televisión.
radio
Pero sí,
stations, but
aquí,
here
y
we
sobre
do.
todo
And above all,
abajo, casa
underneath,
por casa,
house by
porque se
house,
trabaja
because it's worked
para transformar a México desde
to
abajo y con la
transform
gente.
Mexico from the bottom and with the
Sin embargo,
people.
la
Nevertheless,
conferencia mañanera la
the
ven
morning
muchos.
conference, a lot of people are
Entonces,
viewing
es
it,
importante
and so it
que
is
se
important
informe
to
sobre
us
los programas
that this
sociales
is informed
los
about
programas
the
de
social
bienestar
social works,
que se están
the well-being
llevando a
programs
cabo
that are being
para que la
undertaken,
gente tenga
so that people
información
have the correct information
sobre
about
estos programas.
these
Entonces, vamos
situation.
primero
So let's do
con
first
Elizabeth para
with
quién es quién en
Elizabeth
las
to
mentiras,
the
y luego
who's
nos
who in the
vamos
lies,
con programas de bienestar.
and then we'll go with
No son
the
todos,
well-being
pero
programs. It's
es
not all of
una
them.
síntesis, un resumen, y
It's a
vamos a
synthesis,
buscar que sean breves las
summary,
exposiciones, además
and we're going to
breve,
look
bueno,
for it
doblemente
being
bueno,
brief
para que nos quede tiempo
and doubly good,
de que podamos
so we have
tener este diálogo circular
ready
con
to have this
ustedes,
circular dialogue,
preguntas.
answer
Entonces
questions,
vamos con
and all of
Elizabeth.
that. So let's go with Elizabeth.
Con su permiso, señor presidente, buenos días a todas y a
Good
todos.
morning.
Hoy es 1 de marzo, estamos
Today is
iniciando
1st
el
of
año.
March and we're
Esta es la
starting the
sección
year,
que
and this is
nos
a
tiene las
section of
noticias de
who's
la
who in the
semana.
lies,
Y vamos a
and we're gonna
iniciar con la primera.
start
que dice de
with
cómo
the first one
Reforma
that says
inventa sus 8
how Reforma
columnas contra el presidente
creates their
Andrés
8
Manuel
columns
López Obrador.
with Andrés Manuel
El
López
periódico
Obrador.
Reforma publicó en su
Newspaper
primera
Reforma
plana 8
publishes
columnas.
in their
Sabotea
front
la
page
democracia AMLO
sabotage
de Estados
democracy
Unidos.
sabotage by AMLO
Este título
to the
indica
Congress of the
que el
U.S. This
Congreso de
title
Estados
indicates
Unidos
that the
afirmó
Congress
que
of
el
the U.S.
presidente de México
affirms that
sabotea la
Mexican
democracia.
president sabotages the
Pero
democracy.
ese titular
But
es
of
una
course,
falsedad.
that is a
En
fake.
realidad se trata de
In
dos
reality,
congresistas de
this means 2
535
Congresses of
legisladores
535th
federales de Estados
legislators
Unidos.
in
Uno de
the
ellos es Bob
U.S.
Menéndez,
One of them is
senador
Bob
demócrata de
Menendez,
origen cubano, enemigo
Democratic senator,
del
enemy,
gobierno
known
de
enemy
izquierda en
of
América Latina.
left-wing
El
governments in
representante republicano
Latin
Michael
America.
Marcau,
And
un
Michael Marcao,
antimexicano
an
declarado
anti-Mexican,
y partidario
declared
del
and
muro
partisan of the
No es verdad,
wall between U.S. and Mexico.
obviamente, que el
It is not
Congreso
true,
de Estados
obviously,
Unidos
that
se
the
haya
U.S. Congress
pronunciado
has pronounced
sobre
themselves
la reforma
about
electoral
the
en
electoral
México.
reform in Mexico.
Vamos con la segunda.
Let's go for the second one.
Vuelos comerciales de
They
AIFA al
create
Aeropuerto Internacional
commercial
de la Ciudad de
flights
México,
from IFA to
supuestamente
the International Mexican
para
Airport,
recoger pasajeros.
supposedly to pick up
Los días
passengers.
16 y 17 se compareció
16th and
de febrero,
17th
se
of
compartió,
February, we
a través de
shared
redes sociales la imagen de
through
un vuelo
social
que
networks
partió del
an
Aeropuerto
image of a
Internacional
flight
Felipe Ángeles
that
al
started from
Aeropuerto
Felipe
Internacional de la
Angeles
Ciudad
to
de
the
México.
International
La
Airport in Mexico.
instantánea iba acompañada con textos que
This
aseguraban
was
que ese
accompanied
vuelo
with
era para
by
recoger
text, but that
pasajeros,
flight
lo cual es
was
falso
supposed
y
to
parte,
be
ya sabemos,
for
de la campaña que
passengers,
intentan
but
hacer
that was of course
del
false, and we know
enfrentamiento en contra
about the
del
campaign that they're
Aeropuerto
trying to do
Internacional
against the
Felipe
International
Ángeles.
Airport in Felipe
La imagen
Angeles.
compartida en redes
The
sociales
image shared in
corresponde a la
web pages
trayectoria de un vuelo
corresponds to the
no
trajectory of a
comercial de
non-commercial
la
flight
aerolínea
from airline
Mancarters,
Mancarters,
perdón,
Manin
que
Charters,
despegó del
that of
Aeropuerto
course
Internacional
takes
de
off from the
Felipe
International
Ángeles
Airport
al Aeropuerto
International
Internacional
Airport
de la
to
Ciudad de
the
México para
Mexico
recibir
City airports
mantenimiento.
to receive maintenance.
El capitán Jorge Badía,
Captain Jorge Badía,
vocero de la aerolínea,
speaker of the
declaró
airline,
a
declares
AFP que los
to IFP that the flights to that airline from the IFA and the international airport in Mexico City are not commercial flights, but movements of airplanes completed by logistics of their company. But as we know, they don't know what to do anymore. They don't know what to create and invent. And it's all about the works that the Mexican president starts. We're going to be heading to the third one, in the case of Tesla in Mexico and the news and fake news. In the last few days, there's been a lot of speculation of the investments of Tesla in Mexico. The media generated expectations, but the missing of journalistic ethical standards started on the 7th of February, where the columnist Celis started a lie after the virtual reunion of the Mexican president Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador with the businessman Elon Musk from Tesla, assuring that the businessman had retired and retracted the agreement with a supposed fight between the president and the owner of Tesla, and Celis started this lie in the publication in social media was a total lie, speaking to everybody and telling them that this was a total lie. Valens, and on his own way, Dumel Torres gave the announcements. That was so strange, wasn't it? And he wrote $10 million that were going to come in as an investment from the exterior to be leveled off and to be hard-headed from the presidents. And this conductor in Imagen repeated this speech that they have since 2006, that the president is a danger to Mexico, as well as the public worker Candy and ex-president Felipe Calderon as well are all in it. But all of this resulted as false, and since this was all spread out and the lies were unproven, they were proven wrong. Yesterday also announced that Tesla would install themselves in a national territory, and the messages with this lie up to today's dates, the lies continue. They are journalists and opposers that do not save themselves, and even on the face of the ridiculous way they act. This presentation, we're going to show you an info from the District Attorney Alejandro Manero had cancer. Today published that Elon Musk did not accept that the conditions were accepted by him and that was false, said and blamed Andres Manuel to be the cause. Mr. Torres said that this was not being able for Andres Manuel managed to mess up Mexico, and yes, this generated a sentiment of, and they signaled that was thank you for them, for your participation for this section, and we'll leave it there as a reflection, and the missing of journalism followers they have, and what they publish, the clarification. And he said that in this morning conference, there was integrators of the electoral process. They were the ones that mentioned that one of them would be Obrador, and as fake that he was going to be a speaker in the walkout that they had this Sunday, nor in El ZOCALO, and many others from the professional electoral service that prepared in their media, social media, counselor of the INE, and other professional career that participated, Luis Fernando Benitez Mejia. We're going to be seeing that they will themselves, their assistants to the MARZO is an executive in Mexico, Lerma del Vadillo Carmona, in Metepec, Janet Piteros Mendez, Speaker of Training and Civical Education in Sonora, as well as Aaron Fernandez Garcia, Executive Local of the number 5 in Tamaulipas, was also present. Seri Lozada Nájera, Councilor of the State Electoral of Hidalgo. But as well, we're going to be showing you the promoters of this march. Ciro Murayama will be proving him wrong, and everybody that was participating in the march. Who was there? Un segundo, por favor. Está un poco lento el sistema del día de hoy. Just a quick wait. System's a little slow. Just a moment. This one is the true popular knowledge. And well, let's take a look. Let's try to speak with somebody that is observing the march so that they can tell us what they think about this. Can we ask you a few questions? Are you manifesting yourself today? No, I'm here just passing through, but it's really important. It's part of democracy. We find a Mexico that is politicized, that everybody's participating in international interest, and they are in their right, and it's interesting so that there's an equilibrium. Are you with or against the march? Well, from what I know, is that it's not as much as it's a electoral reform, so we're not trying to take the INE, and this is what I perceive. In cases, because there should be some reforms done in all the institutions. And so it's really interesting that they come out to manifest themselves. And it's really interesting that there are changes, political changes, a change of regimen, very interesting. Do you think before they would manifest themselves or that they would back up the old regimen? Well, before the practical media information, they would always say what they wanted. But today, thanks to the social media, there are people that are awoke, that participate in that. It's really interesting to know for the common good, social good for Mexico. And it's really interesting because I perceive, I'm not here from the Mexico City area, but I'm Mexican 100% on my descendancy, but on the peoples and the communities and the 2,458 municipalities, there's a lot of participation in the political realm, and that helps in the development of a country, because it's not possible that we are so close to the strongest power in the world, and there's this equality, a great inequality here, but we're heading there, and it's a large, long process for the well-being for our kids, for our children's children, and it's really interesting, and it's really good, and I'm really happy that the people that never marched today can march. Is something really satisfactory. So then the people that are informed, viva el pueblo. Good morning. So we're going to be informing about the advancement of the well-being pensions of the elderly. About the well-being pension of the adults, 11.2 million will receive for bimester March and April their pension for 4,800 per month, in the total of investment was 61,786 million pesos. In the case of disability, we're up to 1,284,000, more than that receive that pension. Investment for March and April, 4,146 million pesos, just on those 2 months alone, so that they can have this pension as a universal pension. The social investments is of 4,146 million. In the case in the program of mothers that are working, we are benefiting 247,000 children with some money assistance, and the social investment is 445 million just in March and April of 2023. As we commented before, we will be initializing the payments of March and April of the pensions on these dates. This is the calendar that we have, starting with the disbursement of the payments as we did in February and January. We are distributing this by letter of the first last name, first letter, and so we have taken this determination that this will be started along 2 weeks under the calendar of the one we could see here. And when it comes to the communities that are still earning in cash, the payment will be between the 2nd of March and up to the 29th of this month. And we ask the people that are receiving their money through this to be attentive to the call for their payments. Good morning, Mr. President. As you well know, the program of money spreading, and that require a small amount to invest as income for families and to empower the women that want to start their own business. As you can see, from 2019 to February 2023, there's been 1,264,822 batches that come to an investment of 8,134.4 million pesos, and it's really a realm that a third part of this comes from the recuperation of the country. And the goal for the first semester of this year is to surpass the 70,000 credits for an amount of 1 million pesos. And as if you can observe in the place, you also have to be continuing your reimbursement in any one of the locations of Telecom, now Financiera for the Bienestar, and solicit your credits there.
Para que todas las personas que recibieron créditos a la palabra por montos de 25,000 deberán también escribir al correo que está ahí debajo.
And they would have to write to the email serviciosfinancieros@findaben.gov.mx so they can show how to realize and complete their payments. That's good. I'm probably looking into it myself. Good morning to everybody. Coordination of grants and scholarships has prioritized for the government of Mexico that have scholarships ready for students from preschool to licensing and professional schooling, and also specializing in rural area schools and of farther locations. Just last year, 2022, in this, we tended more than 4 million families that include with kids that have studies of preschool, primary school, or secondary school, middle school. In the case of the middle schools, we tended to more than 5.8 million of youngsters of the level of high school in licensing and professional university schools, we invested a 546,000 for them. In basic education, the amount is of 8,000 monthly pesos. I'm sorry, 800 pesos mensuales a month. And by the first bimester, it was made to 3.7 million of families that have kids in basic education. Also, in the high school, the scholarship added to 875 monthly, and on February, the dispersion for youngsters of high school up to 4.1 million youngsters in high school. At the end, in the university realm, the amount was added to 2,575 monthly pesos, as well up to 10 months per year, and it has started as well the payment of February for 409,000 that are in university. That would be all. Very good morning. With your permission, Mr. President. About the program Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, mentioned that this program is looking for the incorporation of young people that are in between 18 and 29 years old, and then they don't do any schooling or work. And to be productive, we are a monthly payment 300, and aside from a Social Security from the IMSS, 2.6 million youngsters that did investment for 90. Reiterate that this year will be given priority to young people that inhabit historically discriminated, and to say that for this year the budget approved pesos, which will mean a direct backing for the youngsters of about 500,000 children. And when it comes to the year, has been already of 2,438 million pesos, and we've started with 8,000. Very good morning to all. With your permission, Mr. President, entry of 44,300 from them and using their budget and their income from the Bank of Bienestar resources in the extended hours and food distribution be destined to benefit arriving to a cover of 400 million, one or more times the budget that by rights belongs to them. As you can see in the graph, entities such as Yucatan have reached the coverage of more than the total of their schools in their entity. In other cases, such as Veracruz, Tabasco, Puebla, Nayarit, Hidalgo, Baja California Sur, Michoacán, Estado de México, Zacatecas, will 69% coverage, respecting to the total of their schooling.
Buenos días, con su permiso, señor presidente.
With your permission, Mr. President, in relation to the strategy of development of rural strategies, the program Sembrando Vida is currently participating 443,920 working employment jobs, and the investment comes up to 33,000 million pesos with a coverage of 21. This percentage, this number of and 44% are the program in its 5th year of work has already produced 1,453% are forests and 3%. The coverage of the program is up to over 1 million acres, 1.1 million acres and more than one fertilizer. This tracks the use of any agrochemicals. That one was good as well. And all that are listening, I am informed that we put out of farms. The first one of these two prioritized programs, Production Pro Campo, pesos, that represent a increment of to the budget of last year, 1,506 million. This program will provide direct backing with producers of whom now users of sugarcane in the entire country. In this year, we will be proceeding with the providing of the bank cards, but the 2 million is first phase that will be concluding June of this year. We will be providing to those producers their economical backing to lighten their and straighten their production activity. When it comes to fertilizer, this year we will have a budget of 220%. This program, of course, with fertilizing free fertilizers, small productive companies from the 32 states. This fertilizer will be turned in before the month of May and before the sowing of the land starts, and this will minimize dependency and better the well-being of the families from the fields.
Buenos días, con permiso, presidente. En el programa Biopesca este año va a haber una
in the program fishing, biofishing will be investment of 1,400 million pesos and will be reaching to more than 300,000 beneficiaries, from whom 48,000 are women and 144,000 are men, and from those beneficiaries are more than 54,000 that of indigenous origin. And in the coverage of national locations, and it comes to more than 700 municipalities, there's an increment of 4% compared to 2022, and this year they will be receiving 7,500 pesos to fishermen and agriculture workers. That is all, Mr. President. With your permission, Mr. President, good morning. When it comes to the national program of living programs in charge of the Commission of Living Quarters, we have exposed before that there's been 314,000 from 2019 to 2022. You can see the distribution here in actions of living quarters. For this year, we'll be doing 6,000. That means 4,600 million pesos distributed in 3 different locations for a better way of living. 56,600 when it comes to, with 2,382 backings for the National Program of Reconstruction. And with this year we'll be closing the program. And in social living, 18,000 backings, 2,111 million pesos. That would basically mean to tend situations of risks and prioritize programs of the government of Mexico in 26 entities of the country and 183 million pesos. With this, we'll be tending to 2019 to 2023 to more than 1.5 million people and families. Good morning, Mr. President. The prioritized for the well-being includes two services. The first service is that the President has promised to bring free internet in public places, plazas, school areas, medical units, and libraries, and as well all the locations. If you can get to those places, you can get free internet from now on. And this public service, we have taken up to date 65,152 locations. They're located in 19. It is good to mention that these locations are locations that are really remote and of populations that are poor. The medium or the average monthly rate of connections per site is around 1,600 connections. That will provide us with a monthly average of around 90 million services per month that has been given in this public service. The goal for this year, there are in total services that will cover more than 27,000 localities. On the other end, the program contemplates such as cellular connection. This was done by instructions of the President. That don't have cellular connection. Also, we are spreading in an aggressive way all the antennas that are needed for 7,500 antennas already set that are covering up to date, including the other providers of cellular providers. The 91.9% of the population that imply 110,000 localities, and the goal for this year will be of 94%, and the goal at the end of the day, of course, will be to have almost 1,000 antennas ready to go. In virtue of this service and public service that is being amplified in the state, is to get to the localities where the companies are not arriving for private companies and give low prices of cellular usage. There is a package that starts from 30 pesos per month, where you can receive internet, calls, social networks, and text. So connectivity continues, and this is all we have for today. Internet for well-being.
Con su permiso, señor presidente, buenos días. Para atender los pagos de las pensiones, los apoyos y las becas.
To have the right for the well-being programs, the Bank of Well-being has been growing their locations, and we have a plan of expansion of 2,400 locations from those Secretary of Defense, through their body of engineers, have constructed more than 2,118 locations. We have added to operation 1,067 new locations, and up to date we are including a coverage of total of 1,502 locations distributed throughout the country. In total, We are with presence of 1,207 locations of 997 municipalities and 32 of the states of the country. This, of course, to bring the best service to the beneficiaries of the social programs. With your permission, Mr. President, in addition, this year there will be financial backings to 25 million of historical investment of 600,000 million Mexican pesos in comparison to 200% of the 35 million living quarters that are in the country. 71% receive at least one program for the well-being. Other 5 million receive a small part of the budget, public budget, now that we are including public servants such as teachers, medics, and police. And the rest are 5 of those 5 millions are also benefited because the income power and the intake power increments commercial, market, industry, and the market also gains from that. Well, so let's go. First one. Go ahead. Good morning, Mr. President. Carlos Domingos from Nación 14. To ask you about the situation of the ex-governor of Tamaulipas, Juan Francisco Javier Cabeza de Vaca. Yesterday, it was known that a judge got him a claim ready about his situation. Can you tell us about that? Well, that's part of the decadence of the judicial power. It has not been able to reform that power that comes from the old regimen and is infected by it, plagued of corruption. It's a judicial power that was being created to protect corrupt and the elites of the economical power. These constant claims that they're doing, they got protection, sadly, for delinquents, common delinquents, or the so-called delinquents of organized crime, and protection for delinquents of the white-collar type. So those are the privileged ones, were the sons, privileged ones of the old regimen. Hopefully that the judicial power can be reformed before for Minister Saldívar, Arturo Saldívar, there was a little bit more vigilancy about the judges. Their autonomy was respected, but they would be watching out for the councilry of the jurisdiction, look after the direct proceedings of ministers. That organism is like a flower pot. It's just there as a ornament, because there's no finger pointing to the judges, magistrates. But before that, there was a little bit more of attention. Now that the new minister arrived and declares that an extreme formalism, as if it was empowered, that they're autonomous, that they can do whatever they want. And just to now, the new president came, and all of this wave comes out of resolutions in favor to supposed delinquents. Well, they were judging in the United States Garcia Luna, and in 3 hours, of course, a judge was unfreezing the accounts in Mexico from his ex-wife or current wife. And this about the governor, ex-governor, and other cases. Hopefully that this is applied, and the people from the Supreme Court can tend to this situation, because it's grave. It's not like intervening in other powers. It's the not be quiet type of thing up against the injustices and corruption. In this case, Mr. President stated that the prosecution office will start a claim. Yes, if the judicial power doesn't act, and we do have the elements, the evidence that there was influencing and corruption, we need to present the denouncements against the judges if the judicial power doesn't move. Meaning, because they're not enjoying the privileges, their privileges, and they're public servants, political servants. So it'll be worse that they have impunity. All public servants are subject to scrutiny, public scrutiny, and to act in conformity with the Constitution and the laws. Changing the subject, Mr. President, what's happening with that publication of the Electoral Plan B? Yesterday was confusion. Why aren't they already working on it in the Senate? This was attributed to a lacking of that the president of the chamber of the political parties hasn't been sent. What's happening? Why haven't they published? Well, I don't know, but the Secretary of Governor informed me that today, maybe the latest tomorrow, there'll be a publication about that, about the electoral reform. I'll take advantage to do 2 comments here. Remember that the communications are back and forth, right? And this conference, of course, is a dialogue, a circular dialogue. Circular dialogue, sorry. We were speaking to other governors, and there have always been this sold out journalists to the created interest groups. But I remember an anecdote, just to remind the memory to all, because it's really interesting. He calls me dictator. He gave me an interview 35 years ago in Villahermosa, in a station, radio station. I think it was 88. Yeah, it's about 35 years ago. What do you think he did? He recorded it. And so I spoke about democracy. He didn't transmit it. He saved it. candid. Surely he went to negotiate with the interview, because ever since I've converted into in a source of income for a lot of people, mercenaries of the media networks. They're paid to attack. Even they should do a fundraising type, recognizing, of course, that they are being paid for it. And another thing that I want to mention is, I'm not sure if you got a message, an interview from the social media of an interview that they do to Claudio X González. Claudio X González, so you won't forget, is the son of Claudio X González that was always and still is a lot of influence in the entrepreneur sector, almost like Fidel Velázquez. You remember Don Fidel, rest his soul, in the working environment, and Claudio X's father in the entrepreneur section. He gives this to this kid, and he is one of the leaders of this all these movements against us, of the conservative bloc. And so that we have dimensional view of the information as to how they think, because it's even a pin of pride for us to confront these people with that old authoritarian way of thinking, of front, that also are the ones that are financing the movement and have the backing of international organisms, of governments, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Washington Post, Financial Times. But look how they used to think just a few years ago, in the old presidency, the last presidency, when teachers would manifest themselves against the so-called educational reform, because he was one of the principal opposing members to public education. The opposers to the magistrates, the ones that wanted the privatization of the education. This guy. But somebody yesterday pulled out, because this is extraordinary, as if this guy, the social networks, the holy social networks, and there's a registry there, a document, and right there, very clearly, you can see how how they change their thinking, because their real doctrine is the hypocrisy. And now they come, they manifest themselves, and there's total liberty, as ever before. That's why I told them yesterday, to the U.S. government that there was more democracy in Mexico, with all due respect, than in the U.S., and more liberties. And let's not speak about more justice. Of course, in this country, there's more justice than there is in the U.S. And many other things that we have in favor. And so, the opposition, of course, from whom they want to keep maintaining authoritarian governments in the service to the oligarchies in Mexico and the world, that use democracy just as a front, as a screening, when behind that screen, what is in domain are governments that are oligarchy-led, governments for the minorities, democracies for the people, with the people, and by the people. But just take a look at this. Hopefully you can see it, because then they complain that they didn't see it well. But this is what we get from the social networks. How does this resolve? Leaving kids in Oaxaca without classes. There's only 3 days left. So let's fire some of them, so the other ones can go back to the classrooms. They're applying carefully to the human rights of the people. That's not depression. That's a rule of law. We need to fire all these people from Oaxaca? No, as long as you fire some, and you can process some of the leaders that evidently are delinquents, as long as you do that, the other ones will understand. But you need to be firm in this. If you incarcerate a leader because you have the elements to process him, and on the other hand, you fire some of them, and then they come to claim, and you give out to them, the message is the law is not included. But put the text on. The one that I saw has a text on there of what he's saying, because you can't really hear. What he's saying is that we need to repress to those who manifest themselves, and even putting them in jail. Something like that. All right. So let's see if the text is on. Because the one I saw did have it. No. Sí, vamos. Meanwhile, they find Mr. President, the facts that happened in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. Sadly, there was a confrontation, to say it in such a way, very common in Nuevo Laredo. Constantly, the armed forces are in security rounds because of what's happening in the city. This is happening. 5 young men were killed by the armed forces, and in this context, there is always an individual that really known locally in Nuevo Laredo, in Tamaulipas, that takes advantages of these moments of confusion behind the confronting, always in the side of the people dead, qualified them as innocent little doves, and even though they found an arsenal next to them, Raimundo Ramos Vázquez, and is always accredited as the president of human rights in Nuevo Laredo. This guy has more than 10 years discrediting and against the armed forces with a way to appreciate this context, to do what they do in the armed forces while the investigation happens of what happens. And I insist by saying that these people are found with arsenal, with high-powered rifles. I would like to just to leave it clear who is it and who this guy is. And if I could put an audio for 2019 where Raimundo Ramos Vázquez is intercepted with a call with a Noreste leader, cartel, Jose Gutierrez Pimentel, detained last year with the Huevo Treviño, with the leader of Nuevo Laredo by the armed forces. And so, if you allow, I can put that call on that can really clarify what this guy is about. And it's not next to the victims, that is always acting in favor of the supposed criminals that died, and even speak here about real victims of kidnapping, and he doesn't do anything, he just simply ignores it. And I would really like to set this up for you, because yesterday we saw the coverage with López Dóriga, in Milenio, with Azucena, and other media that had given this spaces for this guy can fake any work for security in favor of the Nuevo Laredo and Tamaulipas citizens. If you have any inconvenience, Mr. President, I can put this on for you. And all Mexico and all Tamaulipas and the media, that politicians that defend this guy, we've seen a lot of people and accrediting everything that this guy is saying against the armed forces, when he really is one more operator of the Cartel Noreste member. Yeah, go ahead.
Adelante. Te iba a decir si tú tienes protección. Sí.
Do you have protection? Yes. What's up? Who's speaking? Raimundo Ramos. How come you don't answer? Because my phone is cut off. What were you going to say? What was I going to say? So, look. Some from the district attorney office came in. They just called me, yeah. So what happened with that? Since there's a denouncement in the they want to do an inspection, but I don't want to speak in private with you, and then we'll see what happens. Well, what happened? It was just part of the investigation that the district attorney is doing, because they came here, and I said I didn't say anything, but they came, and inside there was this car with a lot of people detained. One of them was stopped, and if he wants, can you imagine? One of the things where the local people, that one of the licensed supposed Telles is involved. There's the Rito Puentes. There's an inspection to take some pictures. They wanted to take pictures. I said no. Well, the call is a little longer. We can publicize the call later on. They come into an agreement. He's like a manager a speaker of El Borrado stopped last year next to Huevo Treviño. And I want to ask you, what can be done by the government to avoid there are more fakers like these, in special this charlatan can keep doing this with the flag of human rights when he really never defends anything and is always acting in favor of the organized crime. And even the human rights couldn't stay quiet and had to manifest themselves that will revise as to what's happening in this case. But in reality, it's about a confrontation in between some young people from a cartel with the simply were doing their job. Thank God they didn't lose their life, as other times has happened. Well, I know about the case. We were informed in the security time yesterday, today, and the proposal of the Secretary of Defense, Luis Crescencio Sandoval, was asked the intervention of the Commission of Human Rights to investigate the case, and military authorities, of course, are also helping out in the investigation. So these members of the armed forces are responsible, they can be punished. In social media, he publicized the condolences because that's how they do it. Yes, but the best thing is to leave things clear, not to hide anything. Let's think in two things. First, what sadly happened in Iguala from Ayotzinapa. Why hide things? It was a mistake and it was a crime. They had to, of course, say the truth and punish the responsible ones. But they start fabricating things. Another version. Or they fabricate crimes with other people that are not guilty and to hide the truth. So that we can't do. And second, it needs to be really, really clear. This isn't the Fox or Calderon government. It's not about killing them right away. Right here, we respect human rights. Truly. Respect that. And all these fakers that you mentioned, Alvarez y Casa and all them, that were so quiet and even assisted the narco state that worked from Fox to Calderon and continued then. But the agreement, of course, is given from Fox and has their stellar moments through the Calderon government. And I'm not creating or inventing anything.
salió en el juicio.
This is what happened in
Y lo
the
que va a seguir saliendo.
Garcia Luna trial and whatever else will be coming out.
Entonces, no
And
somos
so,
iguales.
we're not the same.
No ocultar nada.
Not hide anything.
Siempre
Always
hablar con la verdad.
speak the truth.
No mentir, no robar,
Not lie, not steal,
no traicionar al pueblo.
not betray the people.
Ese es el escudo para
That's the
enfrentar
shield to confront
a todos estos
all these conservatives, corrupt conservatives,
hipócritas.
hypocrites.
Eso es lo que nos da autoridad.
That's what gives us authority, moral authority.
Si no, no resistiéramos. Si yo tuviese más dinero que Lore de Mola,
If that would have been the case, we wouldn't have been resisting. Wouldn't have been able to resist.
Claudia González,
If I had more money than Loretta Mola or
Genaro,
Claudia González or Genaro,
okay,
or then
Krill,
Santiago Krill,
que la mayoría de ellos
the majority of them,
si yo me hubiese dedicado a robar
if I dedicated myself to steal
como ellos,
as they did,
pues no podría yo encabezar
then I wouldn't be able to be heading
con el apoyo de millones
with the
de
backing of
mexicanos,
millions of Mexicans, transformation
como la que se estaba llevando a cabo.
like the one we are
No aguantaría,
realizing.
imagínense,
I wouldn't be able to hold
pero
up.
casos
Just
del
imagine in
Wall
the
Street
cases
Journal,
from the Wall Street Journal, for example,
Anita, del New York Times,
New York Times,
del Washington Post,
Washington Post,
del Financial Times,
Financial Times,
bueno, ni del Reforma,
not even from Reforma
o de El Financiero.
or the Financial.
Están enojados los del Financiero
El Financiero is mad
por los negocios
Why are
que
they mad?
tenía el dueño del
because of the
Financiero
businesses that the owner of El Financiero had
en el sexenio pasado y a nosotros.
in the last presidency and the others.
Le daban contratos
They would give contracts to them
hasta para hacer cárceles.
even to do big and construct jails.
¿Qué tiene que ver, dueño de un periódico?
What does a newspaper owner have to do with the jail,
Construir un penal.
constructing a jail?
Pero además,
But not even that. I mean,
con créditos
with what?
de la banca de desarrollo, que es
From the
dinero
development
público.
bank, they would do it with the money, with public money.
Pues los entiendo, ¿no?
So I understand them in that
De
way,
que estén molestos.
that they're mad about all this.
¿Cuánto? 100 millones de dólares, sí.
More than $100
No,
million.
menos.
No, I don't think it was that much, was it?
Pero sí.
But yeah.
Y además, un
And
crédito
besides, a credit
que no tiene para pagar.
that has nothing to be paid off with.
Eso se los dio el gobierno anterior,
Those the old government gave them.
Videgaray, sí.
Videgaray, for
Porque,
example.
Todo lo que tiene,
All that he has,
sus bienes, no le alcanzan.
it's not enough for them to pay.
Entonces, esa es la molestia.
And so that's
Y
what they're bothered about.
están también pensando
And they're also
que
thinking
si nos debilitan,
that if they weaken us,
pues van a poder
so they're going
regresar
to be able to come back.
por sus fueros para que les condonen esos créditos.
So that all these credits are
Están
condoned.
pensando que
They're thinking that
va a regresar
all this is going to come
la
back,
mafia del poder.
the mafia of power.
¿Ustedes creen que la gente va a querer
You think people are going to want
que sigan
these guys to continue?
estos tranzas?
these fakers
gobernando México,
governing Mexico,
están equivocados.
they're wrong.
La gente va a
People
seguir
are going to
apoyando la
continue
transformación,
backing up the transformation, cleaning corruption,
purificando la vida
purifying public life.
pública. Y está demostrado que es una
And it's proven that
minoría,
it's a minority
la mayoría
that
de
is
nuestro
doing
pueblo,
this. And the majority of the people
trabajadora,
are working,
gente de
hardworking,
bien.
people of good.
Siempre he pensado que la
I've
mayor
always
riqueza
thought
de México
that the major richness of Mexico is the honesty of their people.
Entonces, les vamos a
And so
volver a ganar.
we're going to defeat them.
Sí, pero hay que hacer la investigación
Yes, we need to do the investigation about this guy.
y hay que convencer,
And we need to convince,
no imponer.
not impose. We need to convince.
Eso es lo que se tiene que investigar
That's what needs to be investigated.
para que no se lucre
So there's no more gaining
con estos hechos y mucho menos con el dolor humano.
not with these facts and
Porque
profit
ustedes creen que a
with the
estos
pain, human pain.
periodistas
And do you think that these mercenary
les importa
journalists care
el dolor
for the
de los familiares de las víctimas,
hurt and the pain of the
de los
victims,
que
family
pierden la vida
members
con la violencia? No,
that lose their lives with violence? They don't
lo
care.
vimos cuando la pandemia
We saw it with the
se
pandemic
frotaban las manos
times.
porque querían
They would clean and wash their hands because they wanted a lot of people to die.
para exhibirnos, para
To
decir
exhibit us, supposedly,
el gobierno es un fracaso.
and say the government was a failing system.
Son muy, muy, muy perversos.
They're really,
malas
really
entrañas,
perverse.
malos de Malolandia.
Bad from Batland.
Pero afortunadamente, pues, lo que decía el señor, ya hay mucha.
And fortunately, there's a lot of politicization in
Ya
Mexico.
está dando frutos
We
la
are
revolución de las conciencias.
gaining from the revolution of conscience.
En el país,
We're bearing fruits from that
en la
now.
creación de conciencia.
In the creation of conscience.
Dicen, polariza el presidente. No, se politiza, se informa, se orienta, se
It's
concientiza.
It's oriented and it's conscientiously done.
Se predica con la verdad.
We preach with the truth.
Y entonces,
And so,
eso es
that's what
veneno puro
pure venom
para el conservadurismo.
for conservatives.
Si no existiera
If this didn't exist,
esta conferencia,
this conference didn't exist,
imagínense.
just imagine.
Y si no existieran las redes sociales,
And social networks didn't exist.
y si no existiera
And if
la revolución de las
the
conciencias,
revolution of conscience didn't
y
exist,
si no existiera
and if
un pueblo
a people,
inteligente,
intelligent people,
avispado,
awoke,
que es mucha pieza,
that is
como el
a
pueblo
big
de
part,
México.
as the people of Mexico, that is strong.
Por eso yo defiendo a México.
That's why I
Voy a
defended
seguir
Mexico, and
defendiendo.
I'm going to keep
Por eso,
defending them.
hay más democracia
And
ahora
as I
que
said,
en
there's
Estados
more
Unidos,
democracy
hay más
here
libertad
than
ahora
in the
que en
U.S.
Estados
There's
Unidos.
more liberty here than in the
Hay más
U.S.
justicia
There's
social
more
en
just
México
social
que en Estados
justice
Unidos.
than
Aquí hay
in
menos
the U.S. There's
discriminación
less
racial que en
racial
Estados Unidos.
discrimination than in the U.S.
Aquí hay más fraternidad,
There's more fraternity,
con todo respeto, que en Estados Unidos.
with all due respect, than in the U.S.
Mucho más cultura que en Estados Unidos. con
Much more
todo
culture,
respeto.
with all due respect.
Entonces,
And so,
claro que hay
of course,
una minoría.
a minority that are the ones that go up there and Wall Street Journal and all those.
O este caso, ¿no? De los
Or in this case, about the legislators. One of them, a legislator, as was mentioned here, Ana Elizabeth mentioned it. Menendez.
Bob Menéndez.
Bob Menendez, that guy,
Ha sacado
has pulled out
raja del sufrimiento del pueblo cubano.
from the suffering of the Cuban people.
Ha lucrado con el
Has
dolor
profited from the pain
del pueblo cubano.
of the Cuban people.
Porque es el que tiene la bandera en contra
Because he's the one holding up
Cuba.
the flag against Cuba.
Y es el que
And is the one
ha estado promoviendo el bloqueo.
that has
Cuba.
been promoting the blockade to Cuba.
Y lo hace por convicción.
And he does it with conviction too.
Sí,
Yes,
porque es muy
because he's
conservador,
really conservative,
reaccionario.
reactionist, but as well
Porque lucra
because he profits
económica y políticamente.
politically
Ha
and
ido
economically from that.
escalando.
He's been scaling.
Llegó a ser senador.
He came up to be a senator.
Es senador.
Is a
Cuando
senator.
quedaban 50-50
And there were 50-50,
y él decidía,
and he would get to decide.
vendía caro
He would sell really expensive
su voto
his vote
al mismo
at the same
partido
party,
al que pertenece.
to the same party that he belongs to.
Conseguir su voto.
To get his vote.
Ponía todas las condiciones.
He would put all the conditions for
Y
it.
el otro senador republicano como
And then the other Republican senator,
anti-mexicano.
anti-Mexican.
Entonces, vamos hacia adelante.
And so we're going to
A
move
ver si ya
forward.
está, más
Hopefully
claro
that
el
it's
texto.
a little more clear, that
A
text.
ver. A ver. A ver.
All right, go ahead and put it on.
Porque es una joya.
Because it's a jewel.
¿Cómo se resuelve esto? Pues aplicando la ley.
How does this result?
Descontando
Well,
los días
applying
a
the
los
law.
maestros que están aquí, dejando sin
Not paying them, the
más
teachers
de
that are here,
900,000 niños
leaving
en
more than
vacas sin clases. Hay
900,000
que
people
descontarles
without
el día.
classes.
Faltan 3 días.
Let's take
Pues hay
off
que
their
despedir
salary.
a
Oh,
algunos
there's
de
3 more
ellos para
days.
que
Well,
los
let's
demás
fire
entiendan
some
que
of them
tienen que regresar al
so that the
trabajo.
rest
Digo,
can
el
understand
Estado
that they
de
have to go
Derecho,
back to the room.
aplicado con
The
cuidado
rule of law
a los
applied
derechos
carefully
humanos de
to the
las
human
personas,
rights of the
eso no es
people.
represión, eso
That's
es
not
Estado de
repression.
Derecho. Y
That's
en mi opinión,
rule of
esa es la
law.
fórmula que se tiene que
And in
seguir.
my opinion, that's the
¿Se tiene
formula
que
that you have to
despedir a
do.
todos los maestros de
You have to
Oaxaca?
fire
No.
all the teachers from
Con que
Oaxaca?
despidas
No.
a algunos y con que
With
proceses
you fire
algunos
some
de los
and you
líderes
process
que
some of the leaders
evidentemente son
that evidently
delincuentes,
are delinquents,
con que hagas
delinquents.
eso, los
As long
demás
as
van
you
a
do
entender
that,
la
the
señal,
rest
pero
are going
tienes que ser
to
firme en
understand
la
the
señal,
signal.
porque si tú apresas
Because
a
if
un
you
líder,
in jail
porque
this leader
tienes elementos para procesar,
because you have elements to process,
y por otro lado,
and on
despides
the
a
other hand,
algunos,
you fire some of them,
y luego te vienen a reclamar
and then they
y
come to
cedes,
claim,
entonces el
and
mensaje
then you
es,
give out,
la ley no cuenta.
the message is law is not truthful.
Está más o menos claro, ¿no? Progresista este hombre. De
This guy is
izquierda,
a
se
left-wing progressist, right?
denominó. Pues
Auto-denominated.
eso lo aplicaron
Well, that was applied.
y metieron a la cárcel a
They
dirigentes
jailed these leaders.
que le fabricaron delitos.
You know
a los
that there
dirigentes
was
del magisterio de
crimes
Oaxaca.
fabricated to the magistrates of Oaxaca.
Maestro Rubén
The
Núñez,
teacher
ya
Rubén
falleció,
Núñez passed away,
de lavado de dinero,
of money laundering,
lo acusaron.
a teacher, was accused,
honesto,
an honest man,
humilde,
humble.
lo llevaron
They took
preso
him,
a una
arrested,
cárcel de alta
to
seguridad
a
allá en Nayarit.
high security
Y
prison in Nayarit.
este señor,
And this
con el
guy,
apoyo del Reforma
with the backing of Reforma newspaper,
en esa campaña.
on that campaign.
Entonces,
And
estos son
so, these are the guys
nuestros adversarios.
that
¿A
are
poco no es un timbre de orgullo
opposing
tenerlos
us?
enfrente?
Isn't it a pride to have them in front of us?
No se puede, si no hay autoridad moral.
If there's no moral authority, you can't do it.
No se puede transformar nada.
You can't change anything if you don't have that.
Y el pueblo ya no quiere
The people don't want to be
autoritarismo, y
having
no quiere
authoritarianism,
antidemocracia,
anti-democratic people like
y mucho
this,
menos hipocresía.
much less hypocrisies.
Entonces vamos a continuar.
So we're going to continue.
Buenos días, presidente. Buenos días a todos. Shaila Rosagel, corresponsal
Shaila
de Grupo
Rosagel,
Gil, El Imparcial de
from
Sonora, La
Grupo
Crónica
Gil.
de Mexicali y Frontera de Tijuana. Presidente, con la decisión que se
President,
tomó
with the
con
decision
la
that
llegada
was
de
taken
Tesla
with
a
the
Nuevo
arrival
León,
of Tesla
esta
to Nuevo
decisión se
León,
podría replicar en
this
otros
decision
estados
could
de
be
sequía como
replicated in
Sonora
other
y Baja
states where there's
California. ¿Cuándo
drought
y
in
bajo qué
Sonora and
condiciones podría
Baja
llegar
California.
plantas a
When
estas
and under what
entidades?
conditions
Bueno,
could plants arrive to these entities?
fue muy buena la
Well, the
conversación
conversation with him was good,
con el señor Elon Musk.
with Elon Musk.
En dos ocasiones fue
In
muy
two occasions,
receptivo,
he was really receptive.
estaba muy interesado
He was really interested
en la comunicación,
in the communication in between us.
escuchó mi planteamiento.
He listened to my
Y no solo tratamos el
offers,
tema de la planta automotriz de
because we didn't just speak about the
Nuevo León
automotive plant in Nuevo León
y la necesidad de que ellos ayuden
and the necessity that
ante la
they
falta de agua,
need to help
su
with the
compromiso de que van a
droughts
ayudar.
and their compromise that they're going to help.
Hablamos también de otras opciones. Hablamos de el desarrollo del istmo.
We also talked about the development of
Hablamos
the ism
de
in the Yucatan
Hidalgo
Peninsula. We spoke about Hidalgo
para una posible planta
for a
de
possible
baterías
battery plants
en Hidalgo,
in Hidalgo
porque lo de Nuevo León
because
se
of
vincula mucho con una planta
Nuevo
de
León
batería que tienen
is
en
vinculated with a
Texas.
plant that they have in Austin, Texas.
Les queda muy cerca,
It's really close to them
porque la planta de batería la tienen
because the battery
ahí,
plant is there,
según me informaron.
supposedly they said.
Entonces, la planta
And so
automotriz
the
va a tener
automotive plant will be
en
in
Santa Catarina, en
Santa Catarina, Nuevo León,
Monterrey, la zona conurbada de Nuevo León, digo de Monterrey, en el estado de Nuevo León, y de ahí les queda cerca.
and there they can travel. Austin, Texas is close.
Incluso creo que el anuncio va a ser hoy
I think the announcement is going to be today
en Austin, Texas.
in
Bueno,
Austin, Texas.
pero
But
está interesado en
really interested
invertir
in
más.
investing more in Mexico.
Hablé del plan Sonora con él
I was speaking about the Sonora plan
y
with him,
quedamos
and we agreed
para resolver esto
to
de
resolve this first
Monterrey.
in Monterrey,
Luego
and then
va a enviar a sus técnicos
he will send his technicians
para
to
dar respuesta a los
give an answer
compromisos
to the compromise
de la petición
and
que
the petitions that we did
para el caso de Nuevo León relacionados
on
con el
the
agua.
case
Vienen
related to the
sus
water in Nuevo
técnicos
León. His
están
technicians will
pidiendo
be arriving. They're asking
yo les diga cuándo puedo
that I can tell them when I can
recibirlos
receive
con
them
ese propósito.
with that purpose,
Y luego, porque lo invité,
because I invited him.
¿quiere venir él?
He wants to come. Wait, hold on.
También me mandó a decir
He
que
told me as
si
well that
cuando estimo yo, ¿no?, que
when I'm there,
podríamos
that maybe
hacer
we
un
can
recorrido por el
do a
país.
walk around through the location.
Hoy voy a ver la agenda
Today I'm going to see
para ver cuándo viene.
my timings to see when I can
Y
meet
sí
him.
estoy pensando, si él lo considera. Y si
And
decide
I'm also
también
thinking if he
venir,
considers,
bueno, vamos a decir que quiere venir. Estoy pensando
I'm
en que
thinking
vaya a Sonora,
that he can go to Sonora,
que vea lo de la planta de energía solar,
so that he can see the
que se
solar panel plants, energy
conozca todo
plants,
lo que es el plan Sonora,
that he knows
y todo el
everything that
potencial que
is
hay ahí.
Plan Sonora and all the potential
En
that there
cobre,
is there
en
in
litio.
copper,
Le
lithium.
aclaré que lo de litio
In Sonora, I
ya
clarified
se
that
nacionalizó,
lithium
pero
is
que eso no
nationalized,
implica
but that does
que
not imply
podamos
that we
ponernos de acuerdo.
cannot come into an agreement.
El litio es de los mexicanos.
Lithium
que,
is
bueno,
for Mexicans,
sí,
belongs to the
se
Mexican
compra
people.
la materia prima,
But yes, if we
sí,
purchase
se ponen las plantas de baterías en
if we
Sonora,
set up the battery plants,
sí se da trabajo a los sonorenses, a los
if we can give
mexicanos,
jobs to the Mexicans
se llegó a acuerdo.
and people from Sonora,
Hablé
and the
también,
raw
le dije de
material is
que
brought in.
México es el segundo productor de
I
cobre
also told them that Mexico is the
en el
second
mundo,
world producer
y está en
of
Sonora.
copper, and it's in Sonora.
Y los vehículos, sean
And
de
the
gasolina o sean
vehicles,
eléctricos,
whether it's electric or gas, they all have an important amount of components in copper.
Entonces,
And
hay
so,
energía
there's
renovable en
energy,
Sonora.
renewable energy
Todo esto
in
porque
Sonora. All this
es tu
because
estado, ¿no? O
it's our
me estás
state,
preguntando por Sonora, allá.
and you're asking me about
También
Sonora,
les contesto.
so I'm
Y también
answering.
Hidalgo,
And as well as
que tiene mucho
Hidalgo,
potencial,
that has a lot of potential, Hidalgo,
primero por el aeropuerto,
first due to the airport.
que ayer recibimos el primer avión de carga,
That yesterday we received the first cargo
nada
plane,
más para tener una idea,
just so we can get an idea,
así,
a vague
que
idea,
piensen
so that they can think about it,
nuestros adversarios. El
adversaries.
aeropuerto de la
The
ciudad
International
tiene 600
Airport
hectáreas.
has 600
Y el
acres,
aeropuerto Felipe Ángeles
and the Felipe Ángeles
tiene
Airport
3,000.
has 3,000,
Y ya están todas las instalaciones.
and all the installations are there.
Y bodegas. O sea,
Warehouses.
es un gran aeropuerto.
It's a great airport.
Entonces llegó un avión de DHL ayer.
So now the airplane from DHL
y ya
came
van
in.
a estar llegando.
They're going to be
1 o 2
arriving
diarios.
1 or 2 a day.
Pero no solo es esta empresa.
But it's
Ya
not only this company,
todas
it's
las,
all the
empresas que se dedican a la carga aérea
cargo
van a llegar
planes.
allá.
They're going to be arriving there.
Pero no solo es el aeropuerto.
But it's not
es
only the
que
airport,
hacia allá
it's that towards that
hay
section,
posibilidades
there's
de
a possibility of
crecimiento
growth
en el Valle de México.
towards that area
Porque
in the Mexico Valley.
hacia Hidalgo hay agua.
Because towards Hidalgo, there's water.
De todo el Valle de México,
From
donde
the entire Valley of
se
Mexico,
dispone de agua,
where there's water,
es hacia Tula,
it's from Tula,
Pachuca.
Pachuca.
Se tiene un acuífero importante de agua.
There's a
Y se
water
tienen
duct,
terrenos disponibles.
aquifer. There's land available.
Entonces, sí hay potencial ahí. Y
So there's
luego está
potential there.
el
And
istmo.
then the ism is also
Estamos
there.
hablando de
We're talking about
unir el Pacífico con el Atlántico.
uniting the Pacific with the Atlantic,
Es la comunicación
communication.
más rápida
fastest way
a la costa este,
to the East Coast,
a la costa oeste
to
de
the
Estados
West
Unidos,
Coast
por
of the
Salina
U.S.,
Cruz,
through Salina
a
Cruz,
Asia,
towards Asia,
2 puertos, Salina Cruz,
2 ports,
Coatzacoalcos,
Salina Cruz, Coatzacoalcos,
ferrocarril,
ferrocarril,
10 parques
10
industriales,
industrial parks,
agua,
water
hasta para inundaciones,
for
energía eléctrica,
inundations, electrical
renovable,
energy, renewable
eólica,
energy, ionic,
hidroeléctrica,
hydroelectric,
gas,
gas,
subsidios fiscales,
fiscal subsidiaries,
en algo que coincidimos, no solo
and in something that we coincided not only
para el istmo, sino en
for
todo
the ism,
México,
but in all Mexico,
sureste, bajío, centro, que hablamos de todo esto, el norte,
the north,
la calidad
the
de la
quality
fuerza de trabajo en México,
of the
de los obreros, de los
workforce of the
trabajadores.
people.
Él llamó la ética
It was called the ethical
del trabajador mexicano, la
of
responsabilidad del trabajador mexicano,
Mexican worker. He noticed that.
de los mejores del mundo.
Of the best in the world.
Entonces, esa es
So
una
then,
ventaja
that's one of the advantages,
comparativa importantísima. Porque
important
también,
one,
hablamos
because
de que
we
nosotros
also
no
spoke
podíamos
about us
igualar
not
los
being able to
subsidios que están ya
equal
ofrecidos
the
en Estados
subsidies that
Unidos
are offered in the U.S.
para plantas de baterías
for battery
y para carros
plants
eléctricos,
and for
porque
electrical cars, because
son de miles de millones de
we're
dólares.
talking about millions of thousands of dollars.
No solo no pagan impuestos, sino
Not
que el
only
gobierno
aren't they
les da
paying the IRS, but the government gives them
por cada automóvil
for every
que
vehicle
fabrican
that they made,
un subsidio.
subsidiary.
Entonces eso no,
So that we can't do.
nosotros no lo podríamos hacer.
We couldn't do it.
Pero de ahí
But
salen
from there,
las otras ventajas
the other advantages
que no tienen ellos.
that they don't have in the U.S.
O que no es lo mismo.
or that it's not the same.
La fuerza de trabajo.
Workforce and other things.
Entonces él está muy consciente
And so they're very
que no se
conscious,
puede
he's very conscious, Elon Musk,
equiparar
that you can't
la
compare
entrega de subsidio
the providing of
que se hace en
subsidiaries
Estados Unidos
that is being done in the
a
U.S.
lo que
to what we
podríamos hacer nosotros.
can provide the company here in Mexico.
Pero aún así
But even then,
está interesado.
he's
Hablamos
interested.
del
We
Tren
spoke
Maya.
about the Mayan train.
Ellos tienen un sistema de construcción
They have a construction system
de túneles
of tunnels,
muy novedoso,
very modern,
un invento.
this
Donde
invention.
En Las Vegas hicieron algo así.
In Vegas, they did something.
Nosotros necesitamos un túnel para unir el aeropuerto de Cancún.
We need a tunnel to unite
con la
Cancun
estación
Airport with the
del Tren
station
Maya de Cancún.
of Tren Maya from Cancun.
Y queremos pasar por abajo
We want to go through the
del
bottom
aeropuerto
from the
para
current
darle
airport
conectividad.
to give connectivity.
Ellos tienen un sistema de construcción de túneles rápido, como lo
Of
necesitamos
fast
nosotros,
train construction as we need,
donde
where
se utilizan vehículos eléctricos. Aquí ni siquiera
electrical
eso,
vehicles
sería
are
una
used.
banda.
Here, not even that. We would have like a rail
Estaríamos
going
hablando
down.
de 1,5 kilómetros. Una empresa mexicana también tiene maquinaria para túneles, ¿no?
We're talking about a kilometer and a half. ICA has equipment here in Mexico City to do that.
Drenaje profundo.
That's how deep drainages were created here.
Se siguen haciendo obras así,
They're still doing works like that.
con estos túneles. Entonces, hablamos de eso.
So we spoke about that.
Si da tiempo,
If it gives us time,
hasta podríamos ir
we could even
al
start
tren.
heading out to the train
Porque
and
sí
work there
también
as well.
me interesó.
Because he was
El
interested on that.
Tren
And
Maya
Tren Maya
es la obra pública
is one of the public works
más
that
importante
is most important,
que se está
that
construyendo en
is
el
being
mundo.
constructed in the world.
No hay en ninguna parte.
There is, in any other place of the world, a train such as this of 1,000 miles,
1500.
1,500 kilometers.
Entonces, eso fue y
And so that was
lo que hablamos.
what we spoke about.
Muy buena la conversación.
Very good conversation and good terms we ended.
Y tienen interés
They have
en
interest
seguir invirtiendo.
in
Y no solo es esta empresa.
investing in Mexico. And it's not only this company. So
Es
this
importante que
is
se
really to
conozca,
mention.
¿no? México
Mexico
es
has,
tres países, y no
of the
el
three
país
countries, if not the
más atractivo para la
country
inversión
more
extranjera.
attractive to the
Está creciendo la inversión extranjera como nunca.
foreign investments. The investments are growing as ever before.
Entonces, estamos bien.
So we're doing
Mañana,
good.
jueves,
Tomorrow,
les voy a presentar unos datos
Thursday,
sobre
I'm going to show
cómo
you some
está la
numbers
economía
into how the economy is of the country
para
to
sentirnos
so we can feel
seguros de
secure
nuestro futuro.
of our future.
¿Cómo va México saliendo adelante?
How Mexico is
eso,
doing, how they're moving forward.
No al
And
retroceso.
so, not to the return
Un
of the old
factor,
ways,
dirían los tecnócratas,
because there's a
una
factor,
variable
as technocrats would say, a variable,
importantísima
important variable
en este desarrollo
in this
ha
developments
sido el no permitir la corrupción.
has been of not permitting
Entonces
corruption.
regresan los corruptos,
And so the corrupt come back,
el bandidaje oficial vuelve, el estancamiento económico, la falta de oportunidades, el empobrecimiento del pueblo, los privilegios para las minorías. Entonces eso ya no. Tenemos que seguir adelante. Tengo una llamada.
Presidente, nada más preguntar.
Ve, ya cuando me empiezan a... Mire, ¿cuántas tengo? Ve.
look how many I have. I have another call.
Mañana les digo.
Tomorrow I'll tell you about it.
Mañana me comprometo a decirle.
I'll compromise myself to tell you.
Que a las 9.
It's at 9 a.m. Mr. President, when you were speaking about the Plan Sonora investor, was he interested in some plant for Sonora or in any battery plant? And also to ask you, what conditions are there going to be that you spoke about lithium with the nationalization of the lithium? Under what conditions are what industry is going to be done? And if you have the project to operate litio MX, yes, we're working on that. The whole planning, how to separate the lithium from the SUD. CONACYT also has this work. We're advancing on it. We're going to be informing about that soon. And even on this plant, I'm not sure of what they're going to be announcing. And it's probable that this is done, hopefully before, but it's probable that they will finish it when I'm done with my presidency. But that doesn't matter. we will leave the
encaminado todo el proceso
works
de
ready
transformación que tiene que haber
of the transformation that has to be done and continuity with the change.
tiene que seguir el proyecto
The project needs to continue
de transformación
of
con
transformation
cambio,
with a change.
porque no voy a participar
And I'm not going to participate
cuando yo termine mi
when I'm done.
me voy a retirar por completo.
I'm going to retire
Eso para
completely.
que,
This so that
les quede claro, ¿no? A
everything
nuestros
is clear.
adversarios. No soy cacique, mucho menos me siento
And I don't even feel like
insustituible.
unsubstitutable.
No, soy caudillo, no
I'm
soy
not
Mesías.
a Messiah or
Lo sostuvo
a
Krause,
said once
cómo se
of
le
how
llamó al presidente Calles
president was named Caius
en el Maximato.
in Maximilian times.
Jefe máximo.
Great chief, maximum chief.
No. Sí, soy
Nothing
un
like that.
místico.
Yes,
Eso
I'm
sí,
a mystic, yes.
eso sí. ¿Ya vieron que puse lo de la Luchi?
Just seen about the Alushi thing.
Ya vamos a hablar de eso.
We're going to be
Porque la
talking about
vida
that because life
no solo es lo racional.
is not irrational. It's not
La
only
vida
about the
también es lo
rationality.
místico.
Life is also about mysticism.
Pero un día vamos a hablar. ¿Saben
And one day we'll speak about that.
cuántos
Did you know
han visto
how many people have seen
lo de la Luchi?
and watched
Yo
that
creo
Aleutian thing?
10 millones.
I think 10 million.
10 millones.
10 million.
O sea, pero es eso.
But that's it, of course.
O sea, es la profundidad cultural
It's the depth, the cultural
de
depth
México, las
of
raíces
Mexico,
culturales de México.
the roots, cultural
Los
roots,
chaneques,
where
el
Chaneques,
los
Aluche,
duendes. Yo
the
quisiera que hubiese
trolls. I would want
Aluche.
Aleutian.
Si no existen, pues habría que
If
inventarlos, porque
they don't exist, then we
esos
would
nada
need
más
to
hacen
invent them
travesuras.
because they're only
Lo que no quiero son los otros, ¿no? Los demonios. Eso sí no.
doing stuff. I don't want the demons though.
Pero ya vamos a hablar
They're
de
only
eso. Es
doing
interesantísimo ese
tricks. We'll be speaking about that.
tema. Se está trabajando
Okay, so
en
we're
eso.
working.
La propiedad es de la nación. O sea, no hay concesiones.
Property is of the nation,
Solo es litio.
and it's only about lithium.
La empresa. Vamos a decir, es una empresa de la
And
nación. No
we're
me
going to
gusta
speak
decir,
about that. It's a
del
business
Estado,
of the nation. I don't like to say of the
porque son
states.
cosas distintas.
It's of the
El
nation.
Estado es el
The
aparato.
state is the apparatus.
¿Sí? Existe gobierno, existe
There's
Estado
government,
y existe nación.
state, and
Entonces,
nation
cuando dicen,
exists.
es un estadista, es
So
un
when
hombre
they
de
say
Estado.
it's a
No,
statistic, no,
eso sí está importante,
that's important.
es trascendente. Pero lo
It's
más
transcendent. But the most important
importante
thing of all
es la nación.
is the
Lejos
nation
de ser
itself.
hombre de Estado, aspirar a
Instead
ser
of being
hombre
a man
de
of the
nación.
state, to be able to be a man of the
Entonces,
nation.
el litio es de la nación,
Lithium is for the
pero
nation.
se
But
pueden presentar
there can be
acuerdos
some
para vender
agreements to sell
materia prima.
the raw materials.
Por ejemplo, el uso de
For
la materia
example, the
prima
use of
en
the
nuestro
raw
país.
materials in our country.
Que se llegue a acuerdos,
That, of
pero
course, we
que
can get into
las
an agreement
plantas
with
se
that, but
instalen
that the
en
plants
Sonora o
are installed
donde se encuentre
in
el litio,
Sonora
porque
or
no
where the
solo
lithium
está en
is,
Sonora,
but it's
¿no?
not because
Ahí
it's
es
not only
donde
in Sonora.
hay más,
That's where we have more.
pero hay en otras partes del país.
But there are in
Entonces,
many other places
sí,
in the world,
sí.
in the
Entonces,
country,
Que
and so
el litio
that
que
the
se
lithium
extraiga de
that is
estas
extracted
minas
from these mines
se utilice como
is
materia
used
prima
with
en
raw
México.
materials in Mexico.
Pero todo eso es lo que
But all of that
estamos
is what we're looking for.
para definirlo. Bueno, ya me voy porque
Well, I'm going to take off right now. Tomorrow we'll talk about it. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for your time. Gracias por su tiempo. Vamos a estar mañana nuevamente. Tratar de tener la mañanera en la mañana. We've been doing it. Lo hemos estado haciendo en la tarde, sometimes, a veces. So, pero sí les agradezco, and I appreciate you always being here, whether we do it in the morning or in the afternoons. Se les agradece mucho el hecho de que estén en las mañanas o en las tardes. Cuídense mucho, un saludo grandísimo a toda mi gente. Déjenme mencionarlos, como siempre me encanta, a toda esta gente que siempre nos ha apoyado. Daniel Andrade, Carlos Córdoba, tenemos a Gilberto Gilbert ESP, Lorena Salazar, Jocelyn Velázquez, Arturo Solís, Michael López y Eric Suárez. Gracias a todas y a todos ustedes. Y como siempre, gracias a mis compañeros y compañeras Tato, Ana María, Jennifer, corazón, gracias. Y a todas y a todos ustedes que siempre se conectan con nosotros. Saludos. Y nos hablamos mañana en este canal, pero al ratito nos vemos en la transmisión, ya en media hora, en la transmisión de Alex Murdoch. Gracias, muchas gracias por escucharnos y gracias por estar con nosotros.